But like you should have some goals that are crazy. Like just there's no way that you could achieve them as your current version. Growth gang, welcome back to another growth talk. Today we're going to talk about goal setting. Like I find that people, they have goals, but they aren't attaching systems for their attainment to those goals. So like if you do have goals, like at least you're there. Some people don't even have a goal for themselves. They're just floating through life. And like that is no way to live. Like you need to be climbing a mountain. And then once you've traversed that mountain, better hope there's another mountain in the horizon for you. A little quote from Jordan Peterson. Like I really love that. Like, you know what I mean? Like we get our fulfillment from climbing mountains. So you've always got to be climbing a mountain, but you got to make sure that you have another mountain on your horizon for once you've conquered the one that you're currently climbing. Because it's about the climb. It's not about, you know what I mean, getting to the top of the mountain. It's the climb. But you have to be setting goals in order to really be aspiring towards more, but moving in a specific direction. Like you can't just be willy-nilly walking through life. Like you need to be setting goals. You need to have systems for their attainment. And there's a range of goals. Like you need to have what I call lofty goals, which are like just outside of the realm of possibility for you, because that's going to stretch your bandwidth and what's possible for you as you work towards their attainment. But like you should have some goals that are crazy. Like just there's no way that you could achieve them as your current version anyways. But as you know what I mean, the cheat code is as you evolve, you know what I mean, then that becomes a more realistic goal. But you have to have audacious, like just completely crazy goals. You need to have daily goals. You need to have weekly goals, monthly goals, annual goals. And then I break it down like, so 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. And like your goals are always going to be evolving with you. Like they're not fixed, but you do need to be striving towards them, right? So it's important to have your goals. And like I said, like you should have some crazy ones. You should have some very realistic and easily obtained goals, because we are reward-centered based people, or beings rather. Like you do need to make sure that you're feeding those mechanisms. Like you've got to make sure that you are getting the reward of the attainment of a goal, and then also simultaneously being fulfilled, you know what I mean, by climbing towards a goal that is just outside of the realm of possible for you. But so we're going to get into the Q&A, because I usually pick 5 questions that I believe I'll be able to cover the spectrum of the context in which the topic that we're covering today. So the first question for goal setting is, how do I set realistic goals that align with my personal values? Shouldn't really have goals that aren't. So like, you know what I mean, you have your principles and personal values. Hopefully like the majority of you have taken that introspective journey to like understand what your personal values are, like what you value, and then also what your principles are. But I don't believe that like you should be setting goals that don't align with your personal values. That doesn't exactly make sense. So I don't know how to properly answer that question, other than you don't set you just do. Like those are the only goals that you should be setting. Obviously not only realistic goals, like I said, like you have to have your audacious goals that are like just out of the realm of possibility for your current version of you. But all of your goals should, you shouldn't be intentionally setting a goal that does not align with your personal values. Number 2, what are some ways that I can use to stay motivated and committed to achieving my goals? That's your why. I believe a lot of people, especially if you're in the personal development space and you're of a growth mindset, that you've definitely heard people allude to your why. Now, your why is why you do what you do. So when things get so difficult on the path, while you're climbing the mountain, you're going to be faced with adversities and difficulties that are almost unbearable. So you have to have a strong why. Now, there's a multitude of that. It could be of service to others in general. You could be doing what you do to be in service to your family and to be a provider for them. To be an inspiring figure to your children. There's a lot of different whys, and those are going to be very personal to you. If it's not something that you've contemplated before, I definitely need you to get a better fix on why you do what you do and why you pursue what you pursue. And that is going to keep you motivated. Even though I really don't even like that word. I hate motivate. I hate the word motivated. I really do. A better question would be what are some ways that I can stay disciplined and committed to achieving my goals? Now, that would be obviously reinforcing your why, but also having great systems in place. You got to have your checks and balances. You can't just well, here's my goal. I have no direct pathway or route to its obtainment, and no metrics of measure, to figure out if you're on the right path and if its obtainment is coming closer to proximity or not. It's about systems and stuff. Number 3, how do I overcome obstacles and setbacks when working towards a goal? It's the same thing. You've got to know why you're working towards that goal. And if your why doesn't set you on fire, then it's not strong enough. Because obstacles and setbacks are inevitably going to come up. If you want to step outside of the norm and expand your threshold and your comfort zone, you're going to be faced with a multitude of obstacles and setbacks. But thank God, that is where the growth is happening. If there was no friction or resistance, there would be very little growth. Overcoming the obstacles and the setbacks is the work. Number 4, does accountability play a role in setting goals? If so, how do I hold myself accountable? That comes down to your systems. Accountability definitely does play a role in goal setting. It does. You need to be introspective enough to understand what your goals are and the utilities that you wish to extract from the obtainment of those goals or the pursuit of them. But at the same time, you need to be able to hold yourself accountable, and that's going to come down to systems. You need to be able to measure, your inputs and outputs. So the outputs being what you're yielding back from your inputs. Your inputs being your efforts, the work that, the learning, the whatever is your inputs. But you need to be able to assess your inputs and outputs to know, to be even able to be able to even denote whether or not you're doing what is necessary. And that comes down to the accountability, because if you can't measure your efforts, then it's hard to stay accountable. Because how do you know if you're progressing or backsliding? you've definitely got to be able to measure your inputs and outputs, and that's going to keep you more accountable. It also like keeps circling back to it, but it's your why. Like you need to like have that reinforcement. Like why are you doing what you're doing? And that holds you accountable. You know what I mean? Like I'm building what I'm building to be of genuine service to men as a broad spectrum, but my more specific why is to be a provider, breadwinner, and caregiver to my family. Like my family, like I grew up poor. All of my, you know what I mean? All of my family definitely struggles financially and stuff like that. So like that's my why, and that holds me accountable, because like if I feel like maybe being a little bit lazy today or straying away from the plan or like whatever it is, my why is going to hold me accountable. Like it's like, well, like it literally like that little voice in the back of my head, like you're not doing enough. So like I think it comes down to that. Number 5, how do I prioritize my goals and break them down into manageable steps? So that's systems. So me personally, I run on something I call the production schedule, which is where I time block out my work bouts. So the human brain, like we're kind of only really good for about 90 minutes of extreme focus and deep work. So I try and split my work bouts into dedicated 90-minute windows for a task. Like I'll give myself say 4 tasks in a day, and then like a lot of 90-minute window to each one. Sometimes I do hit that state of flow where, you know what I mean, work for 5 or 6 hours straight through, get a lot of very focused deep work done, and literally like snap out of it and look around and be like, holy, I've been working for 5 hours. But I find more so than not, it's about a 90-minute window before, like I have ADHD too, so it might be a little bit more specific to me, but it's like I got about 90 minutes of deep focus, and then my mind starts wandering and everything. Now, mind you, I will discipline myself and like try and keep myself focused and on task, but I found that within the bounds of those systems, like with the 90-minute windows, like it doesn't have to be such a dictatorship, right? Like it's like, okay, put in my 90 minutes, and then like I'll go for a walk, you know what I mean? Walk the dogs, bite to eat, whatever, do a little reset, and then come back for another 90-minute work bout. But like it comes down to the systems, right? Like how do you even know what to prioritize, like if you don't have systems in place? So like my production schedule, like I have my I get to-do list, because, you know what I mean? Like I used to call it my to-do list, like things that I have to do. And it's like, well, I don't have to do them. I get to do them because everything that I'm doing is centered through front-loaded intention. So it's like I get to do these things. Like I've chosen to do these things, so I get to do them. So I call it my get-to-do list. But having that list allows, like obviously, you know what I mean? Like you're going to have things that come up from moment to moment that, you know what I mean, are going to become priority and call your time away and stuff, like in different like circumstantial things. But ultimately, like you should be like creating your production schedule the day before, because then you're not attaching any in the moment emotion to what needs to be done. And then I time block it out and I adhere to those time blocks, and I get my stuff done. And that allows me to really kind of be more centered in what needs to be prioritized. Sometimes I'm moving things around. It's like, oh no, like I got to do this right now. This could be done this afternoon. Like it comes down to your systems, right? Like if you can't even take a look at things like and have a system in which you're like managing it all, it's hard to prioritize. And then it's even harder to break down into manageable steps. Like you can get overwhelmed so easily, like if you don't really have a good fix on like what you're doing, how long you have to do it. So like it comes down to systems. Like honestly, this whole thing I think we can summarize as your why and your systems. And like that's how you set proper goals. Goal setting is very important. Like I said, there's a wide spectrum of timelines. Like I believe you need to have your daily goals, your weekly goals, monthly goals, annual goals, 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals. And then there's also like I said, like you need your micro wins, like your easily obtained goals, so you get that reward, that gratification for achieving that. And then you need those audacious goals that are just outside of your reach as your current version. I want to continue to drive that home. Like as you evolve and become better, like your audacious goals will move closer and closer to you and become more practical. Like their attainment become more practical. And that's basically it. Like you got to have your systems. And you got to really have a reinforced why. But like if you're not setting goals, then what are you even working towards? Like you just get up every day and go for the gusto and hope that it all adds up to something, and that you know what I mean, that it all adds up to something that ends up fulfilling you one day. Like that's not how it works. You got to have more intention, and that intention comes through goal setting. And then basically the answer to almost all of these questions was a strong why and proper systems. So when it comes to setting goals, which I hope that you are, that's it in a nutshell, honestly. We're going to cut this one off. I really hope that I covered, you know what I mean, the spectrum for goal setting, and that I answered these questions, and that the people that submitted the questions, that they were asked and answered. Until next time, let's grow together.